What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, this is where we talk about the news topics that happened in the scale world of RC over the past week. If you enjoy the Scale News Update regularly, hit the like button. Let's jump into this week's topics. First for this week, Vanquish products will have a new product release today when this show comes out. However, when this show comes out, it's not yet released, so I can't put it in the news, but I can tell you to keep an eye on the website. So that's about as much information as I can get to you on that one. Stay tuned shortly for more. Next, CEN Racing has a new DL series vehicle coming out. They put up this teaser video showing some clips and sneak images up close around the vehicle that they're going to be. You can see in the video, they show up close to the big wheel, small tire style that they've been known for over the last handful of years. And this looks like it's right in line with that. But we can figure out a few other pieces of information from the video clips. One, we can see that it has headlights, which we have not seen from CEN before. And also you can tell that this is an old school vehicle just by the details on the rear of the body when they show some of those images. Probably some other details. Maybe you can even confirm exactly what the styling for this one is supposed to be after, if you know your old school vehicles a little bit better. But this information is going to be coming out this Thursday, 11/21 at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So keep your eyes peeled if you're interested in another CEN. Last week I released the Optic speaker box setup that I designed for the Praise Wheel series. So this goes in the back of your Optic, replaces the rear shock cross brace as well as one of the other lower cross braces. You will pull out the fuel cell along with this, but made to hold a couple of speakers back there. You can run this box either ported or sealed. There's a plug that you can just install with a screw or leave it out, either one, so you can run it one way or the other. If you'd like more information on this, there's a link in the description below, as well as links to the rest of this week's stories. This week, EcoPower had a few new releases on the Servo front. Now, EcoPower is AMain's house brand, and they've been doing more and more servos as of late. One of the most noteworthy ones was the EcoPower 832 mid-profile servo. So not low profile, but a mid-profile. However, some pretty killer specs on this. The retail price is $120, so it's not inexpensive, but it is rated at 883 ounce-inches of power at 8.4 volts. So it's no slouch. Specs overall on this thing are pretty impressive. All metal, case, the whole deal. It's what you would expect for a servo in that price range. Pretty competitively priced at that. Alongside that 832, they also released the 200 Ti and then just a regular 200. Now the 200 Ti is $10 more and it'll be $99. And it has got titanium gears. That's what Ti stands for in the name. But that one's rated at 578 ounce-inches of power at 8.4. So again, no slouch of a servo. $99 and advertised titanium gears. Now, I'm not sure if that's titanium coated steel or what. Rarely do you see full titanium gears, but maybe in this case you do. Not 100% sure. So either way, decent price, good specs on both of those. And as I mentioned, the non-Ti version is $10 less and just doesn't advertise the titanium gears. So a few differences with that, but you can find all of the information on those new servos on AMain's website. I'll put a link to the two that we discussed down below. While browsing for news stories, I ran across this over on Power Hobbies website. This is the Garrett Pro Pointer AT Pinpointer metal detector. When I first saw the image, I couldn't tell exactly what it was. It looked like a flashlight until obviously I read the full description and it said metal detector, but I couldn't really get a scale on it. And it turns out, yeah, it's just a little metal detector about that long, which I didn't know existed. I thought they all had the big long wand arm thing, and that's all I know about metal detectors. I always thought that they were cool, but I don't know. This one is not cheap, but it seems pretty cool, kind of impressive. It's waterproof. It's about $120. You can get these all over the place. Evidently, this is a popular brand and a popular thing to have. So I don't know. I just saw it pop up on one of the websites that I normally check, and I don't know why, for some reason, I still want a metal detector. If you do too, you can check this one out and you can shop for it in a ton of places, but it looks kind of interesting. This week, there's a teaser for a new Arrma, and it didn't come out as a teaser on our side of the world, but through like the Chinese distributor, the Chinese marketing side of things, it got posted up. So this is the image that it says 8S/6S or 6S/8S, whichever version it is. And in the bottom, you can see a couple of silhouetted tires. Looks like a shorter wheelbase for the tire height, kind of like the Outcast was. So who knows? Likely not a scale vehicle, but a teaser nonetheless, and oftentimes those are fun to watch. The Chinese characters in the middle of the photo say, "Fashionable and powerful, see you next week." I wouldn't say fashion has ever been a huge concern to mine, but I'm still interested. And speaking of interested, if you're interested in becoming a channel member, there's a link below with all of the information on how you can support the channel a little bit extra. And along with that, you'll get access to the videos early, as well as some extra content like After News Delight, which is an extension of this show where we just go into the topics a little bit further, as well as just other random videos, kind of candid style behind the scenes. So if you're interested in supporting the channel a little bit extra, there's information for that below. And speaking of information, if you work for a manufacturer and you'd like to see some of your products on the Scale News Update, you can send information including photos, description, and a link to news@harleydesigns.com. Then I can be able to find them easier and get them in the Scale News. This week, Dlux Fabs sent over an email with a new version of their portal transmission specifically made for the UTB-18. Now, the UTB-18 uses 3.5mm output shafts rather than the standard 5mm that we see in 1/10 scale. So they made a new output shaft version so you can buy this little transmission, be able to drop it right into one of those platforms and keep things simple and easy. They also make cut to length drive shafts that work with that size. So again, just helping make custom builds around those axles or components a little bit easier to manage. So thanks to Dlux Fab for sending those over, and I'll put links to those products down below. Thanks to Holmes Hobbies for sponsoring this month of the Scale News Update. Holmes Hobbies been in this area of RC for a really long time, making tons of very focused custom parts for our market long before just about anybody else was. Holmes Hobbies has some new motors coming out that are the size of like a stubby outrunner, but actually a 10-pole in-runner. There's tons of great information posted up about that motor on Holmes Hobbies YouTube channel, which is definitely worth a watch. Also, you can check out the newest Holmes Hobby Crawlmaster HV, which is just a super beefy AM32 version of their ESC line. So if you need something that can take high voltage and still be super smooth with those type of motors, this is a great candidate. Thanks again to Holmes Hobbies for sponsoring this month of the Scale News Update. This Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, come check out Livestream Takeover. Matt and I have lots of things to talk about for this week. That live show has happened every Wednesday for like coming up on 5 years. Crazy to think how time flies. And on this week's episode of Livestream Takeover, Matt and I will be spinning the wheel for Praise Wheel for the final time. After this week's episode of Praise Wheel goes up on Wednesday, we will have one final episode of those before we have to do our running video. So watch for episode 7 of Praise Wheel this Wednesday, as well as the spin for the final episode Wednesday night. Night Customs finally released the full interior set for the Axial CJ7. You go to nightcustoms.com and find this linked there. Now, this is a downloadable file that you'll print at home on your own 3D printer, and it gives you this super detailed interior for that CJ7. Now, the CJ7 came with a pretty decent looking interior already, but this just takes it to another level and gives you the ability to put a driver figure right in there off of your printer. You don't have to go doll shopping. You can just make your own. I don't know what is worse. There's a number of variations you can build of the interior with the files included. You can print a rear bench seat, or you can print it as more of an open area with like some cargo boxes back there, which help hide the shock towers, but make it look proper, like a real Jeep would. And then of course the dash also has the cutouts for the dash stickers to come through, just like the Axial had on their Lexan version. So lots of detail put into this model. They did a great job, as always. So if you've got the CJ7 or one of a ton of other models that Night Customs supports, you go check out his website for everything available. And speaking of interiors, TWS just released their CTS interior. Now, the CTS is the CTS is the chassis. This is for the VTR. VTR is one of their body styles, which kind of looks like a tracker, I believe. And then you buy this, and all of these parts will bolt right into the CTS chassis. They have got the TWS, CTS VTR, CTS VHR, the CTS VTG. It's a little hard to keep track of their names, but it appears that you're buying 3D printed parts. It doesn't appear that they're selling the files for this. Now, they gave the specs of how they're printing it, and they didn't go, it's like 0.3 layer height, which if you know 3D printing, that's pretty rough layer height, rather than going, with a fine, smoother finish or anything like that. It seems like they're trying to kind of just optimize print time rather than print quality, which is, sometimes can be a bit of a bummer. Either way, interior just gives you an easy interior option, other than, yes, you have to have it shipped from possibly wherever they are, which I believe is Taiwan. The driver that they have pictured is not 3D printed. I don't know what he came from, but he's painted, at least. Looks like I painted it. But you can see the seam line, so I assume that this is from like some sort of Tamiya thing, if I was to guess. I know that, TWS and MST, who are kind of related in ways, they used a lot of Tamiya bodies, so I had just assumed that this is something from Tamiya. One of you can probably pinpoint that very quickly, and if you can drop that below. But if you're a TWS owner, maybe mark that down. And speaking of unfortunate names, BM Hobby is releasing this alloy rear-wheel drive drift car in 1/24 scale. Now, this thing looked pretty interesting to me because it's got an alloy body, a metal body of some sort with detailed interior, opening doors. The chassis underneath of it looks to be well engineered as well. The photos that they use are kind of like a cartoon background or comic strip style, which I don't know, looks kind of, I like the way that they marketed this. It looks pretty interesting. Carbon fiber chassis with aluminum pieces on it. And again, it's a drift car for 1/24 scale. I don't know that that's a popular area. Maybe it is, or maybe it's just something totally new. This is going to come brushless. There's lots of adjustment on the setup side of things. I don't know a whole ton about drifting, but this thing just looked interesting. And 1/24 scale, alloy body with an interior, all that. That's pretty cool. I mean, do I need it? Probably not. Am I gonna buy it? Still probably not, but maybe you are. And I'd like to see some more videos on this from BM Hobby. At the end of last week, John Schultz announced that he was leaving Team Associated. John had been with them for, I believe, around 5 years, maybe a little bit more, through the entire launch or the initial development even of the Element RC brand as well. But he posted up saying that he had made the decision to leave and go to a new place, which he hasn't announced yet. So we have not seen that publicly. John has been super involved in the industry for a very long time. He's been in the RC industry since way in like the HPI boom days and all that. So a long run in the industry, and now there'll be a new chapter for that, and I'm sure that we'll see that here in the near future. But if you've been to many events, whether it was, crawling or drag racing, racing in general, maybe you've met John. So wish him the best of luck in his new endeavor. And speaking of Team Associated, this week they released a DC-10 RTR drift car. This car looks fairly familiar. I feel like I've seen it somewhere. I just can't remember exactly where. Clearly this is the unicorn body that they have decided not to paint with a unicorn livery and go with just a generic blue paint job, which looks good. And the unicorn always had great style on its own the way it was. It's just a very recognizable silhouette even of that vehicle. So there's no denying, no one's going to be guessing what vehicle that is. So I don't know why they chose that body over a different one. Hard to say, or why they chose it and didn't do the unicorn, unless they are going to be having, an end of their licensing at the end of the year, something like that. And they didn't want to run into all of the issues that could cause. Hoonigan has been going through a major bankruptcy, and if that is having an effect on licensing, that could definitely be a thing, or that could just be the end of an agreement that they previously had in general. So hard to say. Could be a lot of ways that could have gone, but either way, the unicorn always looked good. It still looks good in blue. It just seems a little odd. I have no idea how the DC-10 does in the drift scene, and I'm not sure of all of the differences between this RTR version and the kit version that we saw previously, but $429 for the RTR with a brushless system in it. Doesn't seem like a terrible price, but the drift market, there's lots of options as well. Seems like consumers up in Canada may be facing a bit of delay when it comes to online shopping, as of reports today, sounds like 55,000 Canadian post workers have gone on strike ahead of a contract renegotiation thing. I don't know how long that will last. It sounds like it's happened at least once before, and I don't know the history of how long that was, affected previously either. If you're in Canada, you're probably already aware of this, and it's probably a quickly evolving story, so maybe it'll be over in no time, but if you're shipping something to somebody in Canada, maybe choose FedEx instead. But that's gonna do it for this week's topics. For this week's question, I wanna know, kind of going back to that drift car, that 124 scale drift car, what was the weirdest approach to an RC that just stood out to you the most? Whether it was because of something like that's just a different construction style with the alloy body and carbon chassis and a slightly different scale, or it was to me, a dancing rider that was just a complete departure from normal RC you see. Just off the wall, completely different approach. What was the most memorable or your favorite RC that kind of fit that mold? As always, I appreciate you guys for watching the Scale News Update every Tuesday. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notifications bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. Channel membership is available and appreciated. But with that, as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.